Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here and welcome to Total Recon. I had to think about that for a moment, because I'm kind of distracted by the amount of blood that I just saw gushing out at the background there. And this is a game called Depth. It's a single word, depth. And of course evokes ideas of the deep something. Probably the ocean, as we look behind and see all these fish going past with quite a lot of blood in the background. And as you might have noticed from this screen and this sort of concept art that you see right on the menu, this is a game about sharks. Yes. So if you have a fear of sharks, I suppose if you have a fear of, or you're disgusted by the sight of blood, you probably have stopped watching by now. But if you have a fear of sharks, I'm warning you right now, this is not going to help. So, the premise of the game is quite simple. You are either a diver or a shark. This is a competitive multiplayer game, as far as, I suppose, this sort of game can go. That is very similar in a lot of ways to games like Left 4 Dead. After all, it is an asymmetric multiplayer game. And the basic premise is, the divers are in search of treasure of some sort, and they do so by either picking it up off the ocean floor, or with the aid of a robot named Steve. Now, I'm not actually kidding, that is the actual name of the robot is Steve. So, yeah. Alright, so, before we begin, let's just quickly take a look at the options. After all, this is a game in beta, and if you are well aware of the Total Recon series, you know that these are games that are not completely finished by any stretch of the imagination. So this is the press beta version of Depth, and well, after all, it is a PC game, so it's nice to see a lot of different resolutions available here. Of course, anybody with more advanced PCs and they use 2K or 4K resolution, yeah, you're not going to find that here. But this is not a bad looking game. It definitely doesn't have the best graphics. Like, you're not going to see this competing with a lot of the latest games. After all, it is very much an indie game. But it doesn't look bad. It does have some optimization issues, though. I'm just having a look at the textures. It goes up to 16 times. And you might have noticed I haven't put all this up to maximum, although I have, actually, to a certain extent. But the reason why you wouldn't want to max out all of these settings is because on some of the maps there is a noticeable frame drop, and that's probably to do with the map itself, because some maps seem to run a steady 60 frames per second and others seem to drop to 20 for absolutely no discernible reason. And I think it's just an optimization issue that will probably go away in future if the team happens to be able to do it. So we have fully rebindable controls, and some of these might seem a little bit different to what you might expect. After all, this is a game that's played entirely underwater, so, you know, take that how you will. Alright, so let's just jump into a bot match. This is a quick match against the AI. Of course, there is an online multiplayer mode, but because this is a beta and there's not a lot of people that actually have this game, matchmaking is probably going to take a very long time right now. Now, at the time of recording, which is the 30th of September 2014, those paying attention will notice that I recorded this on the same day as I recorded The Long Dark. Immediately after, as a matter of fact. Alright, so, here it is. This is the spawn menu. It is not the best looking menu, I will say that. And the character model on the left, although it does actually look quite nice. The character model reminds me of the very first Far Cry game, although it has a little bit of proportion issues, I will say that. Alright, so we have a buy menu, very similar to what you might see in games like Counter-Strike, where you pick up a loadout of your choice. There are these weapons available: harpoons, spear guns, a sort of underwater assault rifle. But of course, all we can afford right now is the SPP, which is a sort of 4-barreled underwater pistol. And we might get a couple of flares, actually. Flares are very useful for finding sharks in the water, as you might expect. Alright, so last chance, anybody with a fear of sharks, I would advise you to not be watching now. Just know that this is a game about divers versus sharks, so what are you expecting? Definitely has a very Jaws feel to it. And you might be thinking, alright, it's not that bad, we can see quite far right now. Oh, and there's Steve. I wasn't kidding. His name is actually Steve. It's an acronym, or an abbreviation, or whatever. But yes, I'm not entirely sure how we're swimming with both hands on the pistol, but there you go. A little bit of suspension of disbelief for you. Alright, so remember how we could see very well earlier? Yeah, not anymore. Definitely not anymore. So we do want to deploy a couple of flares around, as this will highlight the sharks. And, oh god. Nope, 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 nope. Oh god. And that's our very first shark encounter. This is a very, very fast-paced game. You do need to react very quickly. And we're already quite badly hurt. Yes. I will say, though, the actual effects of damage on the sharks look very nice, but the effects on the divers, not so much, if we survive it. I'm guessing the main idea wasn't that people were supposed to survive it. Oh god. Alright, so, we've just been attacked by sharks twice, and this has never happened before. We've never actually survived this long before. Or at least survived more than one shark attack. So this is kind of new to me. You might have noticed at this point that there is a heartbeat going on in the background, and that... Oh, I should have probably mentioned, there is a gore warning for this game, I would say. Yeah. Not pretty. Absolutely not. Just bearing in mind as well about the character models themselves. Oh god. Can we not be attacked for a moment so I can actually have a moment to speak? So, the character models themselves, I'm actually a male character right now, but the spawn screen showed the female character, and there are a couple of variations of both as far as I know. No, 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 no. Right. So that is probably a bug. Now, the damage itself, as you can see, one of my hands is quite badly, browned. That's why, as I can tell, it looks very brown. But yeah. The actual damage on the divers is not particularly nice looking, I will say that. Ah! God damn it. Alright, we might sit in the spawn menu for a little bit. In fact, we'll just go back to this cage so I can have a moment to speak with you guys. So, as far as the graphics go, I'd say it looks really nice for what it is. Like, it's... Go away, go away, go away, go away. This isn't helping. The sharks are a little bit fast. Right, so... It's not an easy game to play. And the effects... They quite well nailed it, you know, like, when you're attacked by a shark, it really does... In fact, the first time I played this, it was genuinely frightening. Genuinely scary, because the just the effect of it when you're in the dark, you can't see very well, but the sharks can see you really clearly. And later on, we will actually play as the shark, so I can kind of explain to you guys what's going on. But yeah, this is... We're just not getting a break. Oh, shit. Right. Anyway, so the heartbeat that you were hearing earlier is actually the, it's your only warning that a shark is coming to you. It's probably... I'm not sure exactly why, but it's intended to simulate, I suppose, the effects of fear? No, no way we're going to survive that. Yeah. Right. Now, of course, we do have a little bit more money, and like I said, the sort of link between this and Counter-Strike or games like Killing Floor is that as time goes on, you do get more money. But that's assuming Steve is able to actually collect any of that treasure. Of course, any treasure that we do find on the ground, we can actually... I just swam right at him. I didn't even see him. we can actually use to deposit back at the robot and cash in a bit of money. So we can actually participate in the sort of looting as well. Right. Okay, so Steve has managed to complete his objective and we've gotten some cash. I'd say this at the moment is kind of demonstrating very clearly the whole asymmetrical aspect of it. Then we just picked up some treasure. Hopefully we can pass it to Steve. No. Incidentally, the sharks can actually attack the robot and deactivate him for a moment, so there is that. We're not doing particularly well. Alright, so every time you get attacked by a shark, you do have a moment of time where you can sort of fight for your own survival, and that's done by using a hunting knife or a diving knife of some sort. And it does show you the health bar. It happens so quickly, so I can't explain to you when it actually happens. There, you can see it on the right side. And that's pretty much the game over. But if you notice on the right side of the next to the crosshair, there is actually a bar. That is the shark's health bar. And what you do is repeatedly stab him. So the aim is to try and reduce his health before yours reaches 0, which is kind of difficult to do. But it's sort of just there to illustrate the whole powerlessness, or the powerless feeling that the divers have against a shark. So it's really sort of a teamwork-based game. And you can kind of see where the core gameplay might be very similar to games like Left 4 Dead, where the survivors, if they're together, can knock out the special infected really quickly. But when you separate them, things aren't exactly as easy as they might appear. So we're going to jump onto the team selection is over here. It's a really weirdly designed menu, if I'm honest. But yes, we're going to switch over to the sharks. This is the same map. There are actually 3 maps in total. And hopefully maybe just before the end I might be able to show you one more of them, which I thought was quite interesting. But this is the Cove, which I'd say is maybe inspired by Jaws, maybe not. Right, so this is the shark. This is actually, if I remember correctly, this is a white pointer, or a great white shark. So sort of the very classic shark model. I don't know if they're going to add other shark species. It'd be kind of interesting if they did. But yes, so there's a base shark. We do have an evolution system going on here. So while the divers have a different loadout they can choose, the sharks have to make do with evolving different traits. So things like electroreception allows you to identify what equipment they have on them. So what weapons, basically, that they have equipped at that point in time. Or hydroacoustics, which is sort of like a sonar. In fact, it sounds exactly like a sonar. And both of these are very useful for pinpointing divers. But we're going to go without it, just to give you an idea of what it's like to just be the shark. And you can see immediately there is going to be a lot of difference. Incidentally, the shark is played in third-person mode. So just to avoid that sort of, I would say, motion sickness that might come from something that moves that quickly, it is in third-person view. So here we see the divers, and you can see immediately the world has changed from a sort of pleasant, I suppose, blue to this kind of greyish view. And this is actually to simulate the shark's sight. It's not something I noticed immediately earlier, but now it's something that's becoming a lot more noticeable because I've played this map twice now. Now you can see wherever we move, the shark has to move as well, and there is a limit to how quickly you can turn around, and you're obviously a much larger target than the divers are. So navigating around is going to be a lot more difficult. And the third-person view, while more useful, does seem to inhibit things when it gets to narrows. For example, going through here, you might notice there's a little bit of issues with the camera, because if I try to turn, the camera will clip or collide with the the edges of the frame, and that does cause some problems when trying to navigate, especially because divers tend to be within tunnels or really narrow areas, so you do have a lot of issues being seen. Oh, and we've just been hit. So what you're seeing there, you can notice every time a pulse goes out, there is a little bit of a silhouette, so we try to attack those that are by themselves, and we just missed. And yes, alright, so we got one diver, now let's get away. Okay, so the shark has two main attacks. You have a bite by hitting left click, or right click, which is a lunge. It uses more stamina, but you cover more distance while doing it. And of course you have a sprint. Combined together, you can cover a huge amount of distance while actually doing that, and you can actually chain it to jump between divers very quickly. Incidentally, sharks can swim backwards. Just want to point that out. Right, so now you might have noticed a cross appearing on the screen, and that is actually part of the biting. So when you initially bite, it does damage initially, but doesn't continue to do damage in the same way. It's much slower, and if a diver was to fight back, they would definitely kill you a lot quicker. So what you actually have to do is move your mouse around to actually get the shark to thrash. And this is actually very similar to how sharks actually bite. They don't just bite their intended prey, they actually tend to rip into it by moving their jaws around at a very fast rate. Now, anyone who's still got a fear of sharks and just heard that will probably be, I imagine, be quite horrified to hear it, but that's actually how it happens, and this game tries to simulate that quite effectively, and I suppose as a game element, moving your mouse around as a shark, it adds more interactivity to it, and it definitely cuts down on the sort of sameness of it all if you do that. So now we've taken one diver out, let's continue. So of course the game itself is based on a ticket system, so once either side runs out of lives, that's the game. I just want to point out as well, the sharks themselves do show the same sort of damage modeling that you might expect, and that is a dolphin. So we're going to try and get you. So eating, oh, it's a seal actually. Eating animals in the world will actually allow you to regain some of your health. There is also a perk that you can pick up later on that will allow you to regenerate your health, as well as regenerate from eating divers. So after that, I'd say that trait might be a little bit overpowered, because eventually the eating of seals and that doesn't become as useful. See, I'm talking about this perk right here, which I've just picked up. Incidentally, I would like them to have a confirm button, because just clicking that means you lock in your traits, and I can't remove it now. Oh, wait, hang on. My mistake. You can by double-clicking it, but I would just like to, have the option of making sure it's locked in. So, yes, after we don't take damage for about half a second, actually, you regenerate very, very quickly, which is kind of overpowered, I would say, because the divers can do a lot of damage to you when you're biting them, and it would just be nice to have that option to be able to kill the shark, that your teammate has just been killed by. But given how quickly the sharks move, like, this might not seem that fast, but on the screen as a diver, that is frighteningly fast, and you can't hit them as effectively, because of course the water physics has friction and does slow you down. Now, one more thing I want to show you as a shark, the sharks themselves can actually do this thing. Like, what you're seeing here, this is not lava, these are actually cracks in the surface, which of course means you can break your way through. Very Jaws-esque style. And of course that means you can break through walls and eat somebody on the other side. Which, let me tell you, from a diver's perspective, is just the scariest thing you will ever see. And there's a lot of maps that you can do that on. One thing that I will say is very strong about this title is the map variety, or the level variety. Although it's the same map every time, and Steve does seem to take the same path every time, as far as I can tell, the fact that there are so many different ways to access that place. Like, where I'm going right now, I can actually go through the same hole that I was in, or I can actually pop up and go through a different entrance, because there are plenty of ways to go around. And as a shark, you can break open new places, which of course in turn means the divers can go through it. So the actual pathing around the map is very flexible. Like, I can break through here too. Of course, this takes a little bit longer, and I've been seen. So the actual way the map plays can change very dramatically. So definitely it's something that's just in beta right now. That's really nice map design. And just the whole theme of it being completely underwater is something that I don't think has been seen in many games recently. But this is definitely quite the breath of fresh air, as it will. Right, that was a terrible joke, but yes. So now we have quite a number of traits on this particular shark, and I will say that because there are less of us on the team, there's definitely less sharks than there are divers. Typically, I'm not sure if this is intentional, but on bot matches there seem to be only 2-3 sharks for every 6 divers. So I would say, yeah, the asymmetric aspect of it and all that. Maybe it's to give the divers a fighting chance, but as I've played it before, 6 divers against 2 sharks, we still lost. So the sharks are definitely very powerful. And you can see just here, we just got netted. This is one of the tools that the divers can use, and it does, of course, stop you from moving. And the only way to break out of it is to wriggle your mouse quite a lot. So essentially, treat it as your hand on the mouse is the shark itself, and you've got to wriggle your way free. It's a bit gimmicky, I will say, but it works, and it definitely makes it quite fun to play. And you can see at the bottom there it says our haven is almost ours again. It's because we are about to win. And there we go, that was the last kill in. I'm not sure why it lags like that at the end. It could be the score menu or this graph takes very long to draw. I'm not sure what's going on there. But you can see 4 divers against 2 sharks. That was... yeah, and we still won. So I'm not sure if sharks are overpowered or not. Not sure. It could just be that the bots themselves are maybe not that strong. But yeah, so you can see this is how the game is played on both sides, and definitely it's very interesting. Of course, the obvious question would be, is it a lot like Evolve? And to some extent it is, because Evolve is sort of that asymmetric multiplayer game as well. But this is done a little bit differently, because I would say the divers and the sharks are on more even footing. As compared to a game like Evolve, where you have 1 versus 4 or 5 players. This is kind of a team, so both sides working as a team can still make quite a lot of difference. It's not the fault of one player or another. It is definitely the team as a whole. But yeah, as far as time goes on, this game will have stuff added to it. I'll just show you the Learn menu down here. Not what I would call it, but there we go. It's called the Learn menu. Opens up what is actually a web browser, and does have tutorial items in here. And these actually show you the gear. Now I just want to show you a couple of things, because there are actually unlocks in here. Incidentally, what I was talking about with the spear gun and the harpoon, these are actually really powerful. And if I remember correctly, the spear gun works a bit like, yes, it works a bit like a sniper rifle. So you can actually take out a shark with a single shot. So that is kind of the equalizer there. If you manage to aim that, you can take down sharks really quickly. And divers have a lot more gear. They have sea mines, for crying out loud, which are devastatingly powerful. And here are all the different unlocks. Now, I'm not particularly certain exactly how we unlock these things. Even things like a DPV, which is a little submersible that you can ride along, or sensors and things like that. These are all stuff that you can apparently unlock. I'm not sure how, but these are things that are coming in future, I suppose. And there's quite a lot of them. So the gear itself will become a little bit more diversified. But of course, as it says, the game is still in beta and things are really subject to change. The same deal with shark evolutions. What we've seen here in red are all those that are available right now, but there's plenty more to come. And I can see there's going to be a lot of variety depending on what you decide to pick. And the same deal with maps. Right now, these are the maps that are available. There's actually 5 of them, as far as I can tell, but there will be more added in future at some stage. But this is But anyway, these are all the things that are available in the game and things that will be possibly showing up in future. But yeah, anyway, this has been Panzer taking a look at depth. It's not coming out. But definitely this is a very interesting game. I like the asymmetric aspect of it, and definitely playing as a diver against the sharks is genuinely frightening. And I think this is the first time I would say a multiplayer game has actually been genuinely frightening. I think compared to Left 4 Dead, which is a lot more arcadey, this has that genuine fear factor that comes in, and of course helped in no small part by just the aesthetics that are given to you when you're playing as the diver. It definitely does bring you in to the game quite a lot. I hesitate to use the word immersive. After all, it is not exactly a world that you're trying to be immersed in, but just the overall feeling of it as a diver is genuinely fantastic. They've nailed the feel of the game really well, and then the visuals, as far as underwater goes, look very, very nice. Yeah, even the blood effects that you're seeing in the background, those pretty close to what the real life thing is. Of course, a little bit more red because of, creative license, but it definitely looks very nice. So it's not a bad looking game. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad looking. And it plays really well. At the moment, this game is not on Steam yet. However, if at the time the video goes up and the game is already on Steam, I will put a link to the store page in the description below. Or I may have an annotation on screen. If I have remembered to do that, you're seeing the annotation, and click the annotation to go to the page. It'll be right there. So there it is. This is Depth. It's a sharks versus divers game, and I think that's it. This has been Panzer taking a look at Depth. It will hopefully be on Steam at some point. And it's quite an interesting game. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.